Good evening and thank you for watching Sports Federation TV. I'm Alton Davids and I'm your host. Tonight we're chatting a bit about baseball. We're chatting to a legend in his own right. We're chatting to Mr. Allan Phillips. Evening, Allan. How are you?
Good evening. Fine. Thanks, Alton. Yourself?
I'm well, thank you.
Good.
Allan, you've been involved in baseball. Take us a step back and tell us what is baseball. Let's start there for people who don't know what baseball is about.
Well, baseball is probably a more serious version of softball, played on for adults, played on a bigger diamond, bigger playing area, bigger field. The ball is a little bit smaller, but a lot harder. And although not a contact sport, you do use a bat and a ball and a glove. And the bit of contact that there is in a sport like baseball can actually be of a very serious nature. You've only got to see pretty recently a guy got bowled against the head in Australia with a cricket ball and unfortunately passed away. And similarly in baseball, if you get hit in the wrong place, it can be a very serious injury. Yeah.
Absolutely, but I mean the same rules apply. 9 players on the field with a diamond. Basic information still the same.
Correct. You know, baseball in the sport itself hasn't changed much in the rules of the sport and the makeup of the sport. You know, pitcher, catcher, 4 infielders, 3 outfielders. Everybody gets a turn to bat. 3 up, 3 down. The game is made up of 9 turns, 9 innings, and yeah, hopefully the team that scores the most runs walks off with the win at the end of the day.
And it can be quite tight in most rival games. Allan, take us from the beginning. So you were a badminton player, I believe, as your first exposure to competitive sport.
Initially, I started in baseball, but moved across to badminton as my winter sport. Soccer wasn't working out so well, and so my first sort of provincial exposure and international exposure came via badminton, but my first love has always been baseball, and I've been part of baseball probably for the best part of 50 odd years, playing at junior level and then obviously moving on to senior level. Fortunate enough to make the national team, pre-unification and post-unification, and now I've moved on to coaching and administration, and I'm starting to think that coaching and administration is a lot harder.
It takes a lot more time, don't you think?
Very, very correct. Very time-consuming, and you know, when you are a player, you tend to think of number one, and everything else must fall into place. And when you are a coach and an administrator, you've got to think of a lot of people, a lot of players, a lot of situations, and you've got to keep a lot of people happy. Yeah.
Yeah, because as a player, you only think about yourself. I mean, you were a pitcher.
Correct.
And all you thought about was hitting that strike zone over and over, throwing a curve, throwing a drop ball. And now as a coach, you got to think about all 9 players.
Correct.
And the long-term plan for that. What kind of planning goes into being a coach? I mean, in a general sense.
Well, I think it's like most sports. You know, you have your preparation period, your training, your preparation. Each week presents its own challenges depending on who you're playing against, and you never know from one week to the next if you're going to have an injury-free squad with which to work with. So, yeah, there's a lot of preparation and planning that goes into it. And on game day, you've got to have a plan A, but you've also got to have a backup plan, because not very often in baseball these days, as in the past, would you put a pitcher on that would start the game and finish the game. Unfortunately, although there's been a lot of improvements in sports and sports science, baseball, especially in the pitching side of it, there are still a lot of injuries that take place in the arm and the shoulder and the elbow, and we try and manage that as best we can. And so, correct. And then once you've got past the preparation and you're into your game day, there's such a things as batting lineups that's got to be worked out. You know, you have a lead-off batter, and then you work through your lineup according to what your requirements are, etc., etc. And not neglecting the fielding side, because you might only get to bat 4 times in a game, but you've got to go out there and field for 9 innings.
Yeah.
So it's got to be a blend. It's got to be a blend of good pitching, good defense, good hitting, and hopefully a good outcome.
And that's the end of the day, the secret to success, because you need to be on the top of the table at the end of the season.
Yes, you know, I'm currently involved, well, not currently, I've been there for 20 years with the Belleville Tigers organization, and one of the things that we've prided ourselves on is being prepared. We take a lot of pride in training. Reason being is, unfortunately, in the local scenario, you have a situation where you train sometimes more than you actually get to play. So you would be practicing twice, 3 times a week, but you only get to play one game on a Saturday, and if there are backup fixtures or additional fixtures, then you might play a game on a Sunday as well. So yes, you know, if you're not going to practice properly and you're not going to prepare properly, then I think you're going to be wasting a lot of people's time on a Saturday in your game, including your own time.
Absolutely. You talk about the preparation. What was the preparation like now? I mean, being with Belleville, as opposed to when you played for Clyde Pinelands back in the day? Much of the same, or is it completely different?
No. I think it is very, very different. Back in the day, there was a lot of self-teaching that went on. Monkey see, monkey do. I learned this from my dad. I learned this from my fellow player. There was not much in the way of coaching. To call a spade, I don't even think you can begin to compare what the kids have, the young players have today coming into sport, as to what was available 30, 40 years ago. It might not seem like a long time ago, but in the context of sport and the way sport has advanced, it's light years away. Nowadays, sport training is far more sport specific, and we are able to get a lot more out of individuals because we target them to possibly excel in different aspects of the game a lot sooner, and they can become a lot more efficient in their job on the baseball field, as opposed to just being a utility guy that just fiddles all over the place but doesn't really become a top gun guy in one position.
Do you think that that's a secret for specialization? Take yourself for example. I mean, you got hand-eye coordination through badminton in your off season, for want of a better term. In the old days, we used to have a winter code and a summer code. Correct. Do you think that playing badminton influenced your performance as a pitcher and a hand-eye coordination, arm development, in a general sense?
I think, without a doubt, in my case, the badminton definitely had a positive influence on my baseball from a physical point of view, fitness, stronger legs, and from the hand-eye coordination as regards a racket sport, which involves a lot of wrist work, right arm, etc. And I think that definitely helped me with the pitching in the baseball side of things, without a doubt, to the point where my first real injury to my arm actually occurred on a badminton court, not on a baseball field, where everybody was saying you're playing 2 sports and baseball's going to hurt you and all that time. It was actually vice versa. Badminton was actually the sport that in later years was damaging to my throwing arm. I just want to get back to that point that you raised about preparation and training and how it's changed. I think one of the big things that helped us those days was there were no distractions that the youngsters today are faced with. A lot more sports, a lot more TV, a lot more social media distractions, a lot more shopping malls. So I think the youngsters today are faced with a lot more challenges to become really top in a sport because of distractions. But if they decide to pick a sport, the knowledge that is available today where they can develop is a lot more available than what it was in our day.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, is that there's I think and sometimes too early specialization and often distraction, that people lose focus of the real focus of sport. Let's take a short ad break. We'll catch up with this interesting young man. Sports Federation TV. I'm Alton Davids, and we're chatting to Allan Phillips, legend extraordinaire in the baseball sector, who's come a long way. He's played more than 100 years worth of baseball, if you count the amount of balls he's pitched in his lifetime. Allan, what was it like playing at the World Series as a South African?
I think what you're actually asking, Alton, is the Olympics.
The Olympics as well, yeah.
The Olympics was like, probably to a lot of us, maybe a World Series. Unfortunately, it's going to be a long time still before a South African baseball player gets to play in the World Series, because that's the cherry on top. That's the top professional baseball clubs in America that when they get to the end of their season, that's what they finish off with the World Series. Pitching at the Olympics, very, very nice. I didn't expect to get there. I was a little bit older than I wanted to be. But earlier on in 1992, I was on the short list to go to the Barcelona Olympics for badminton, and a decision was made at a level where it was decided that some other players would rather attend, so I never got to go to the Barcelona Olympics for badminton. And lo and behold, a carrot was dangled 8 years later with the Sydney Olympics. So I tried my best to maintain a level of fitness and expertise, and still trying to produce on the field. And if the selectors were in favor, that I would be selected to go for the Olympics. So I played in the Olympic qualifier. We were successful there, and 6 months later I was on the plane to go to the Olympics, and that was a wonderful experience. The Olympics is such a big stage. Baseball's just one small part of it. There were some pluses and some minuses. You don't get to go and watch a lot of the other sports that you think you might go and watch, but you do tend to rub shoulders with people that you never thought you'd rub shoulders with when you're in the big dining halls and in the accommodation area where the athletes village and all that type of thing. So, but yeah, very nice. But it never happened sooner.
How old were you at that point?
44.
And compared to everybody else, I mean, you must have been one of the older guys in the squad.
Well, South Africa, unfortunately or fortunately for some of us, we had 3 or 4 of the older guys. I think it was just guys similar to myself that just try to, get the most out of a career, bearing in mind that we started in the apartheid time, and not much was open to us. So we tried to get something out of it, and we were fortunate enough to hang in there for an extra 5, 6, 7 years. And we were of the older teams, of the older players, and older teams. If I ever look at the makeup of the other teams, that has changed. South African baseball has gone very much down a youth road. We've got a lot of good youngsters. We've got a lot of youngsters that have had the chance to go and play professional baseball in America. And so I would say that baseball on that side is not looking too bad. Where baseball's having a problem at the moment is with depth in the club structures and with the strength in the club structure. So it's numbers and strength. It's no use having 3 or 4 good clubs and 10 or 12 good players. We need to have 20 good clubs, and we need to have 1,000 good players, and that's where the challenge is for us as coaches, people that have gone from the playing side into coaching. It's how we are going to try and build up the standard of baseball through our junior sections, through our junior clubs, into becoming very good quality senior players, because we have got the ability to compete overseas, but we cannot do it on the budget that we are faced with at the moment, the player budget as well as the financial budget. So we've got challenges.
Yeah. Do you think that it's because of the lack of baseball played at school level, number one? And that's my
Yes,
first port of
yes.
call. The second port of call is the fact that, in my opinion, this is my personal opinion, is that since unification, baseball has diminished in terms of club size, and number of clubs and club size for that matter. Do you think that that has contributed to the state of baseball as you've just outlined?
Whenever you start talking numbers, it is definitely part of any sport, because the more numbers that you have playing, the more chances you have of picking out a gem. All right. However, having said that, the club structure in Cape Town is still of the strongest in South Africa. But having said that as well, Cape Town's club structure is less than what it used to be. So we have lost numbers in Cape Town. It might be part of what we spoke about earlier. We spoke about the social side of things, the distractions that kids are faced with these days. It might be a community problem as well. So, and also I think to play sport has become expensive. You know, you see some stuff lying around here. A good quality baseball glove, probably upwards of 1,500 rand.
Yeah.
Baseballs are costing 70, 80 rand a baseball to play a game, and every game needs 3 to 4 baseballs. So you can understand the financial strain that a lot of the clubs would be under. Yes, we've tried to get baseball into the schools, and yes, it has succeeded at times, but there hasn't been continuity with keeping baseball in the schools. I don't know if that's partly a funding problem. I know at the moment with the DCAS, there is a big movement again with getting mod centers out there, getting youngsters who are still active in baseball to look after areas and get schools within those areas to respond positively to having baseball introduced and back into the schools. And you know, Elton, if we don't get it to succeed, then baseball is just going to stagnate. We need it to succeed at schools.
Absolutely, but there needs to be some kind of motivating factor. I mean, when I was at school, we played baseball as part of a school league, and there was a trophy at the end of the season. There was the regionals. There was links to the, in those days, the Western Province team, which was based at City Park. You had the Cape District team, which is obviously now all fallen away due to unification.
Correct.
But but now my question is, now that you have BOP, is BOP actively involved in trying to get the school side thing, or is it more of a DCAS in conjunction with BOP? Because sometimes there is a disjunction between the federation and other parties, even NGOs trying to make codes of sport happen.
You know, I can't begin to tell you how many meetings are held between DCAS and BOP, and yes, there are sort of splinters, and it's to try and get it all back into one fold and try and get everybody to be pulling in the same direction. At the moment, we are a little bit haphazard. I think we are getting better and better at trying to get it back into the schools. It's not going to work just with DCAS, and it's not going to work just with BOP. It's got to be a combination of Baseball Association of Western Province, the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sport, the schools and the clubs, and also the people that make up those various aspects of the game.
The other side that's of interest to me is the fact that now pitchers only have a certain number of pitches to pitch, whereas in your day you pitched 9 frames straight up. I mean, do you think that that's working?
That's a very touchy subject these days. Yes, if you go back a little bit, pitchers were given the ball at the start of the game and they said, there you go, and there was no such thing as pitch count or restrictions and what have you. Did it work? There's nothing to say that it didn't work, all right? If you want to sort of fast forward 20 years and say, right, why are we doing it nowadays? When we've got exposure back to international baseball, pitch counts were part of that scenario. We found out that professional clubs, overseas countries and organizations, in their building up of youngsters, were limiting them to what they were allowed to do. So obviously that flowed into sort of our train of thought and all that type of thing. What we are trying to do with pitch counts is two things, is try and not have a pitcher hurt himself or burn out at a too younger age.
Yeah.
And secondly, if we are saying that a club can only throw a pitcher for 110 pitches on a weekend, then in a roundabout way, we're also saying to the clubs, develop other players in that position, because pitching is paramount to a successful baseball organization. Doesn't matter where that baseball organization sits, at school level, at club level, at provincial level. One of the strongest points of Western Province baseball, why we have dominated baseball for so many years in South Africa over the last 15, 20 years, is because we've had pitching. We've had depth in pitching. With unification, it brought a whole new aspect to our ball games, a whole lot of new, younger talent, raw talent, and that's been the strength of baseball. But what has actually become a bit of a problem with our baseball is we've relied on those players that have done so well for so many years to continue doing so well, but we need to bring up the younger guys to replace them. And that younger group is not coming through in the numbers that we would like it to come through, especially in pitching.
Well, that's why I asked that question, because that linked to your earlier comment about the depth.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know, is there a correlation between the pitch count and the depth that we're lacking? And how do we compensate that? But you've answered that in a roundabout way.
I see pitch count as being something that's proactive to helping the pitchers develop. I don't think it could be seen as a reason why we're not developing pitchers, because you know, if you as a pitcher have worked all the years through your junior years and you get up to becoming a senior, 19, 20, 21, now you must remember, as a junior, mom and dad take you to the field, mom and dad make sure you're at practice, mom and dad do this. When you become in 2021, you're now becoming, you must do it. You must want to be at the field, you must get to practice. Now you've got to balance the working life, the social life, the sports life, and anything else that forms part of your schedule.
Yeah.
And what we're finding is the guys come through very nicely through junior ranks and that type of thing. But the minute they get to seniors, 2 or 3 years at seniors, where maybe they're not as disciplined as what they should be as regards their training schedule, that they do start picking up the problems with the throwing arm and the pitching side of things. So how do we try and protect that? And that's where the pitch count situation came in. Try and limit the guys for a certain number of pitches, early part of the season. Later part of the season, the pitch count gets extended. And my thoughts has been that I don't even want to know what our pitchers threw in our days.
Yeah.
They must have thrown hundreds of pitches on a weekend.
For sure.
All right. Well done. That was then. Now is now. We've got to handle a different situation these days. And I'm a very staunch supporter of pitch counts. When you play in tournaments, it becomes even more important, because it allows your top pitchers to come back earlier and throw again. Whereas if they throw too many pitches, you might lose them for 4 or 5 days.
For sure.
So, you know, Elton, different train of thought for different competitions. But long story short, I believe pitch counts will be beneficial to our pitchers, to our youngsters, as they progress through their careers.
Thanks, Allan. I think that the last comment I'd like to make is the fact that once the transition from junior into senior, there's a range of periphery activities that distract kids and take them away from the core of sport was cool. Because now there's university, there's I have a car, there's a social life, as you mentioned earlier. In closing, what would you say, give a youngster some advice who wants to be a top sports person and potentially a top pitcher?
I think it probably applies to not just sport, but just maybe life in general. You know, not that I want to preach or anything like that, but you just need to prioritize a little bit. Yes, you need to finish your schooling, your tertiary studies. Yes, finding a job is not the easiest thing on the planet these days. But once you have done all that, once you've got your studies under your belt, once you've got your job, all right, there's no need to neglect those couple of hours that you can spend a week becoming a really top-class sportsman and getting the rewards of becoming a top-class sportsman. I've received so many awards of late for stuff that I did 20 odd years ago, and it's nice to know that the work was not in vain. Not that I did it at the time for any reward other than personal reward and personal accomplishment, but I think there is time and there is place for any youngster to prioritize his day, his week, that his work doesn't suffer, his relationship doesn't suffer, his social life doesn't suffer, and sport, if it's played in the right context and in the right environment, is one very, very healthy way to spend time and stay out of mischief.
Absolutely. Wise words spoken from a true hero, someone who's made sport great and made sport his life. Allan, thank you for your time. Thank you for the inspiration and the hard work that you still put in at your tender age.
Yeah.
And we look forward to seeing good results of Bellville in the rest of the season.
Thank you very much, Alton, and thanks for the invitation. I'm sure we could talk for a couple of hours still.
Absolutely. It's been fascinating.